Okay, so just a short order. Anyone want to dedicate this for your site or for refer for anyone?
Um, all okay. Go for it.
Okay, so continuing, I forgot to say this yesterday. Continuing with the theme of the materials and parts of the Mishkan. One of the parts was the kior, the wash basin, and the wash basin was built with mirrors, and everyone donated materials, jewelry, etc., so that they could be part of the whole process. And the mirrors, many of the mirrors were donated by the Jewish women who used them in Egypt to entice their husbands after long days' work so that they could continue the Jewish nation. So some people might say, how can that be? So this is a holy place, and the mirrors were it was to encourage physicality, um, sexual relations, to put it bluntly. But their holy work continued the Jewish people. That's why it was allowed and even encouraged that the mirrors of this kior were composed of other mirrors and from the Jewish woman that if had they not done that, the Jewish population wouldn't have increased and the Jewish nation wouldn't have been perpetuated. So that's why it was actually considered holy and not in a lustful way. And the mirrors were used on the kior.
Okay. Um, Perfect. All right. So let's get started. Everybody was a bit tired yesterday. So we're not going to start the new Mishnah. That will start on Monday. So what we basically said is there was this issue where a woman brought witnesses and they were discredited by the courts because of contradictions in their testimony brought out during the examination by the judges, right? And then she brought more witnesses and they too were discredited. Finally, she went and brought still other witnesses who were not discredited. So you all get the case. Brendan, give it over the case I've just covered.
Uh, so there was a woman, and then she brought witnesses, and they were discredited. And then the second set was discredited, and the third set of witnesses passed.
Okay, they were discredited by whom?
And then the one rabbi I remember accused himself because he was
Now, before that, you're
feeling of
saying
something. Uh,
who checked why were they discredited?
because one of the things she said that the court found errors in their testimonies.
Yeah, so there was contradictory testimony. In other words, when the judges viewed their testimony and they cross-examined them separately, there were details that were contradicting other details. And this happened with the first set and second set. That's absolutely correct. So, uh, the third set seemed to have passed the judge's scrutiny. And then we said that Reish Lakish, Brendan, you had more inclination to go with him because he said, look, I've got a problem because since this woman has been established as one who seeks out false witnesses, and therefore, just because the last set of witnesses have not been discredited, something here smells fishy in the case, and the judge should recuse himself or not accept the testimony of the third set, or if he does recuse himself, inform the next judge, perhaps of why he did, because he might be too biased at the time. Whereas it's possible the third set could be legitimate, but he said if it smells fishy, this whole thing, then you don't have to accept the testimony of the third set of witnesses because there's a track record of the women bringing two sets of false witnesses. That was Reish Lakish's opinion. What is Rav Elazar's opinion?
His opinion is that you should. It doesn't matter how many sets of witnesses she brings. That you can't judge on that, because then he said something about, then was the whole of Israel false witnesses or liars. So he can't take that. So he has to take all the set of witnesses.
Yeah, so that's exactly as Rav Elazar basically turned around and said, we agree this woman is in disrepute because she keeps bringing false sets of witnesses. But you can't say that the whole of Israel is devious like this particular woman. So fine, if the judges, because of contradicting testimony, discredited the first set of witnesses and the second, you can't necessarily say that from then on those witnesses will not be tested on their own merit, meaning as the whole of Israel guilty. Exactly that in terms of the paraphrase. The only thing of it is Reish Lakish and Rav Elazar were contemporaries, so they had different opinions, and Reish Lakish was happy to go with him. It's only when a case, the same sort of similar case, came before Rav Yochanan that he used these same words. And he said, this woman has been established to be disreputable. And even though that's the case, have all of Israel been established to be so? So Reish Lakish recognized the phraseology and he looked at Rav Elazar crossly because he said, look, you and I are contemporaries. So I don't have to go with your opinion. But why didn't you quote it in the leader of the generation's name? Because I would have gone with his opinion, because he is our superior in this. He's holding it a higher ranking. So so far that makes sense, nothing complicated. All right, we're up to date. Then it says, look, if you look at the dispute, we seem as though you've got two different personality types. The one personality type is those that disappear, like Arthur. Arthur, where are you? Arthur, where are you? I wonder if even
Where art thou?
that's very funny. I, Arthur, you there? It's a little disconcerting sometimes when it happens. Everybody thinks I'm an idiot.
Where Arthur?
I can hear everything, David. I'm just inside somewhere getting something
Naturally.
on my Bluetooth.
Okay.
So should I put my face on? Let me put my face on to make you feel better.
No, it's Arthur, it's fine. It's
You
just
feel like
like
I'm not
I
there.
wonder if anybody's like technically present when they're multitasking, but it's not my spiritual responsibility that. I know you're shopping and you're doing a million things at the same time because your time is not your own. You're married. And
Well, no, it's not even that. Tomorrow I'm working again, so I've got to get stuff now. Otherwise, I haven't got stuff for for the
listen,
weekend.
but I actually understand you are under pressure. I get it. I actually not just
I'll
not
be a few minutes, but I can hear everything. I can hear everything you're saying.
playing a
But
marriage.
Resh Lockitch and the whole thing. I can kind of understand it now.
No, but yeah, I get it. I
A
mean,
lot better.
I could sustain a marriage for more than a week. I think if I was given a shopping list and told, I don't know, there's only so much I could do. You're a saint. All right, let's go.
That's why I'm Saint Arthur. That's it.
Yeah, King Arthur. All right. So then the Gemara wants to know, listen, there's certain personality types here. So we say that maybe Reish Lakish sides with Rav Yehudah. Gavin, why would Reish Lakish side with Rav Yehudah? What's Rav Yehudah's opinion? Give me the case. I'm not asking, me testing you in the name. I've given you the names.
Yeah, you. Because I think Rabbi Yehuda said that you can't have. Are you referring to when you're having what's it called? The Edim Zomimim. That you
Excellent.
can't have. Okay, so if you're referring to that, I think what Rabbi Yehuda said is what same as what Reish Lakish said, but he said he was referring to having more than that you can't have multiple that the witnesses couldn't have witnessed more than one set of witnesses, because otherwise it sounds like it's fabricated.
All right, so listen, you're definitely on the right track. Can anybody add clarity to what Gavin's saying? Because, Gav, how you got to view it as possible is if I'm the student, can you give
They
it?
have to be what the witnesses, sorry. So they actually, so firstly, sorry, I did leave that out. I don't know if it's relevant here 100%, but it is important.
Yeah.
Is that they have to actually be not only do the witness they have to witness them, they have to actually be together with the witnesses. So the witnesses have to be kind of having lunch with both sets of witnesses, and the chance of that happening is slim. And as that amount increases to 3 sets, 4 sets, it's absolutely impossible for that to really happen in theory.
Excellent.
And
So I
that's
was hoping you'd give that sort of detail. So excellent. What Gavin did do, I'm going to share the Mishnah, is he brought the points that I wanted, and I'm so happy that you did. I'm going to actually share the screen, and so what it says is that it uses this term. If you look at the Mishnah, guys, can you see my mouse when I do this, or you can't, or you can only see the screen?
very small, your mouse. I can see it, but it's smaller.
Yeah, we can see it.
Can you see this? Ba'u Acherim. Can you see this? Ba'u Acherim.
Yeah.
Where my mouse is, guys. Can you see it?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can zoom in as well.
No, I suppose we can. I'm happy to do that.
You'll
Okay.
probably make your pointer bigger as well. Let's see.
That's okay. I don't have to. You can see this. You can see it now. If other witnesses came after the first set had already been discredited, and a new set testified to the same crime as did the first set, and they who discredited the first set discredited the new set through Hazamah as well. So let's just break this down. Is that there was a set of witnesses that claimed the defendant committed a crime at a certain time and place, and a second set said that the first set were with them somewhere else at the time of the alleged crime. So that is one of the definitions Gavin said. It's not just that they witness it, the witnesses that are against the defendant. It's that they actually had to be with them in a different location, and there was they had to have met each other, not just viewed them. So that makes it much more difficult to believe the second set. So they already discredited the first set, who said that they couldn't have witnessed the murder at 9 a.m. on Thursday, the 6th of March, because they were with them in Durban at that particular time. So the first set are then given the reciprocal penalty because they accused the defendant of murder, and therefore they are put to death as conspiring or plotting witnesses. Okay, now again, there's that case is over, and then this case gets reopened where there's another set that said we actually viewed the same thing. And what happens is there's something a bit fishy here, because you've got that second set that testified against the previous set and said, hey, we weren't only at lunch with them in Durban at JB's with the first set, this other set, we were also with them for lunch. And they discredited them through Hazamah as well. So the Mishnah is bringing this point that even if the scenario was repeated 100 times, all of those who were thus discredited are executed as Zomimim witnesses. In other words, the testimony of the two witnesses that the other 100 sets were all with them somewhere else is believed to be established all 100 sets of Zomimim. Now, you and I and the group seem to understand Rav Yehudah more than the rabbis, because Rav Yehudah says there's something wrong here. Exactly as Gavin said, this is a group of plotters who have conspired to discredit anyone who testifies against the accused. It is inconceivable that every group that claimed to have witnessed that crime happened to be elsewhere in the company of the discrediting witnesses. Thus, their testimony is rejected, and only the first set of witnesses is executed. So that we said before that the first set was executed because at that point there seemed no suspicion, because the second set said they were with us in Durban at this particular restaurant. And in terms of how the process works, and the first set to deny or acknowledge, according to from Moshe at Har Sinai, it's not just about witnessing that first set of witnesses, it's about saying they were with us in a different location. So therefore it proves that the first set were plotting or conspiring witnesses. We're going to go through Gavin's greater question about how can this not be manipulated? Because we said even the first set can be manipulated. Why? So you don't have this whole hazaba process, but two people are owing a fortune of money to the defendant, and suddenly they think rather than sell their houses to pay him back the debt, they're going to get him killed. Can happen with the first set as well. Our bottom line principle is we're going to see how to weed out lying, plotting witnesses, contradicting witness testimony, etc. So the reason why they're given the reciprocal death penalty, Brendan, is it's not because their testimony is contradicted. Yes, they lied. And according to Arthur and some opinions, they will be given lashes for false testimony, which is a breaking of the 9th commandment. However, according to some others, because it's not action orientated, the case is just dismissed without those contradicting witnesses basically getting lashed. Because if two sets of witnesses are contradicting each other, how would you give them lashes, Brendan? We don't know who's lying. We don't know who's lying. It's only a hazama where the second set is saying, listen, we're not disputing the facts of the case. They were not there to view the case. They were with us in a different province. And because they plotted to have an innocent person killed, not for wasting the court's time, but to use the corrupting the ends of justice to have an innocent person convicted guilty of whatever crime, what they intend to do is done to them. Kev, you're falling asleep.
No, I'm just tired.
So, therefore, as Gavin said, there is a commonality with Reish Lakish and Rav Yehudah. Because why does the first set, by the way, get executed? Because if a second set comes against the first set, at that point we don't, Brendan, see anything fishy. We don't at all. So, Kevin, it's only when that same second set of witnesses keeps discrediting the first set and say, no, they were with us in Durban at the same restaurant. They were, and Rav Yehudah
All
said,
at the same place, because
yeah, you got to be
that's not
kidding me.
humanly
There's a
possible.
plot here. So we've killed the first set of witnesses. Nothing we can do about it. And Rav Abayu said, well, like, what do we do here? Because the bottom line was that if we do manage to get it in time, where there's another set that's going against the defendant, and the secondary set is going up against both first sets of witnesses who viewed the defendant commit the crime, we don't execute any of those witnesses going against the defendant because the plot's been foiled. At the time when we've already executed the first set, only then is there suspicion if suddenly they were in the same restaurant with every other group of people. So, and the only contradiction the Gemara says is why use the term first set? It implies you know there's a second, so why execute it? Gemara said it's a grammatical issue we have to deal with, but it doesn't mean that they were aware of the others. Okay, that's quite simply put. So why is Reish Lakish similar to Rav Yehudah? And this is where, Kev, one just has to bear in mind, Rav Yehudah is saying there's a plot. These second set of witnesses were trying to get the first set killed. And they're doing it with every set of witnesses that goes against the defendant. So therefore, we don't kill those first sets of witnesses or any subsequent sets that want to conspire, not to conspire, they want to testify against the defendant that he committed a crime. And that's like Reish Lakish in a way. Why? Because Rav Yehudah is saying there's a plot here. There's some conspiracy. Something doesn't seem right. Reish Lakish is saying the same thing that Brendan said. You've got this woman, disreputable woman, that's got a habit of bringing witnesses that are contradicted in court. Their testimony is thrown out and the judges reject them. Two sets, in fact. So there's something wrong with this third set, according to Reish Lakish, even though the judges haven't found it and they're prepared to accept it. So shall we say, the Gemara says, that Reish Lakish is of the same sort of mindset, that it seems as though there's not honesty with regards to certain witnesses. And when you see a pattern, you stop the damaging behavior of that pattern. But when you have contradicting witnesses, you don't allow another set with this woman because clearly there's a plot. You might not be able to work it out. And quite clearly, with the second set of witnesses going against each first set of witnesses accusing the defendant of murder, they can't all be with them in this restaurant in Durban at the same time where this crime happened in Sandton. So therefore, Reish Lakish and Rav Yochanan seem in the Gemara to have a similar mindset. Yes or no? Guys, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Am I saying it over clearly? I think I'm being pretty clear.
Very good.
Arth, just wave. You with me? No, you can't. You're at the shops. All right. As long as you're listening, I'm happy. So then that leaves the other opinion of the Gemara. It says, okay, so if Reish Lakish seems to be siding with Rabbi Yehudah, then who is Rav Yochanan siding with? Well, he would be siding with the rabbis. Okay? Why? Because what did the rabbis say with regards to Adam Zomim, Kevin? You fell asleep. It's okay.
In this case,
I am boring.
I fell asleep. I'm just tired. I didn't fall asleep. I'm just tired.
No, it warms my heart.
I'll have a guess, but I don't know if I'm going to give you the right answer.
Even the greatest rabbis, they have people falling asleep in front of them. That's why they got their smecha. I'm not inadvertently getting.
No, but I don't know if
the whole
I
group
think
was asleep
the
in
light
one
looks
day.
like my eyes are closed, but they've been open the whole time.
Yeah, I used to have the same thing at school.
I'll have a guess. I might not be right. What
No,
did the
just have
rabbis say
a
about
guess.
Adim Zomimim?
Have a stab at it. The
what's the
defendant did.
What's the question again? What did the rabbis say about Adim Zomimim or Reish Lakish? What's the question?
Okay, so what's we know Rav Yehudah's opinion on a secondary set that claimed that the first set was with them somewhere else at the time of the alleged crime, and then there's another set that want to testify against the defendant, and this same set said they were with us in Durban at this restaurant, and this carries on 100 times. What do the rabbis
gets them? Rabbis say you get what in terms of executing.
What happens to these Adam Zommerman, then, according to the rabbinical opinion?
Well, only one set gets executed.
No, that's Rabbi Yehudah. So I'm going to share my screen again for 1 second. I'm happy to, and guys, I'm happy to. There's no issue. So if you can see here, look here. It says the testimony of the two witnesses that the other 100 sets were all with them somewhere else is believed to be established, all 100 sets of Zumamim. So what the Gemara is saying, very, very simple, is that we take it on a case-by-case basis. And even if the secondary set goes through a whole lot of sets of witnesses that accuse the defendant of murder, and so it's impossible, they were with us in Durban, they couldn't have viewed this murder in Sandton, we execute every one of those witnesses that are coming against the defendant. So they then take it on a, personally, I don't understand it. I must be honest with you, it doesn't make any sense. But obviously there's more to it that will come clear in the ensuing dafs. But the bottom line of it is what you can see from them is they take it on a case-by-case basis. They don't see it as something fishy, as a plot, as anything that is improbable. They say it's possible. It's possible. Listen, even if they say it happened a second time or a third time, Gavin, let's not say 100 times. That's getting a bit ridiculous. But let's just say they pulled this again. They're obviously taking it what? On a case-by-case basis. And that would seem, since the rabbinical opinion is taking it on a case-by-case basis, that seems to go with Rav Elazar, who quoted Rav Yochanan. And what did Rav Yochanan say? Was the whole of Israel standing with you when this happened? Meaning is that Rav Yochanan says, listen, this woman is disreputable. She brought a first set of witnesses that were contradicted, and their testimony was thrown out of court by the judges. The second set, their testimony was thrown out of court by the judges. And therefore, although Reish Lakish would throw out the third set because there's a pattern of dishonesty, we say this woman might be of disrepute, but it doesn't mean that the witnesses are disreputable. And if the judges haven't thrown away their testimony because they stand up to scrutiny, we will allow their testimony. And therefore, that seems like the rabbis that almost say with Adam Zomamim, we believe the second pair unless the second pair are discredited, even if this happened more than once. Do you see that, guys? So it seems as though the Gemara is quoting Rav Yochanan, who was quoted by Rav Elazar, and Rav Yochanan confirmed it himself. And the same thing with the rabbis saying we take it on a case-by-case basis. Do you see how they align those mindsets, yes or no?
Yeah. Do they not intensify the questions on the second and third? Because surely they do get a bit of a suspicion and try and beef up to try pick up, whatever's going on. to see if there
Well,
is someone there.
Gav, what's throwing me off a bit with the Mishnah is it said even if it happens 100 times, it's inconceivable to me.
I
If
know.
they turn
But
around and say, we see we take it on a case by case basis, I can understand that statement, but 100 times seems a little bit to me that I don't understand that viewpoint. But at least we can see if we frame it, Kevin, as an issue that they're prepared to take it on a case by case basis, like Rav Yochanan, Rav Elazar, and the rabbis, and saying even if there seems to be a pattern, we can't judge based on a seeming pattern. We have to take each one on a case-by-case basis. That's the only point I wanted you to.
but if they all say that, if they all keep on saying they were in the same restaurant or location at the same time, someone's prompting them to say that. They can't just come up with that. Is this just random that they all say that, or is
No. So exactly as Kevin said, is that it's very difficult to understand the view of the rabbis in this particular Mishnah. It might be in subsequent dafs of Makkot or some other thing which I can hopefully speak to Rabbi Cohn about. They might clear it up. Because according to Rav Yehudah, listen, there's a pattern here. It can't be that the second set was with the whole world, claiming the whole world was with them in a restaurant in Durban. That's what he's saying. There's a plot. If it happens more than once, okay, maybe we've executed the first set of witnesses. We didn't know there's a plot, but when there's a plot, there's a plot. And the same with Reish Lakish. Okay, you've got two sets of witnesses that were discredited, similar to Hazama case, but in the case here that the testimony was contradictory. So why should we allow a third set? We don't trust this woman. And Rav Yochanan and Rav Elazar said, well, the witnesses aren't necessarily lying. She might have coaxed the first two, but the last ones could be genuine. And if the judges haven't found any contradictions, it's fine. And that would seem to be with the rabbis of, even though it seems like a plot that the second set said every time a group of defendants said that, every time there's a group of witnesses said that the defendant committed the crime, they said, no, this other set was with us in a different location. All we're trying to do is align Reish Lakish with Rav Yehudah in terms of seeing a pattern of dishonesty, whereas the rabbis, Rav Yochanan and Rav Elazar, say you take it on a case-by-case basis. This is what the Gemara seemingly understands it at this point. I'm going to throw a spanner in the works in the next time. And in fact, maybe I can I've got 7 minutes left. If you allow me to get it done now, then we can hit a new Mishnah, which I'll be very grateful to do, actually. Can I continue? Okay, I just want to get on a different subject. So the interpretation of this dispute is rejected as inconclusive. Why? Reish Lakish would say to you, what I've said to you is valid even according to the rabbis. It's only there in the case of the Mishnah, where one set of witnesses discredits numerous other sets, that the rabbis did not say like I say, because there's no one seeking out false witnesses and thus no established pattern of dishonesty. But here in our case, this woman is actually seeking them out, and it's been established that the earlier witnesses she brought to testify were not reliable. So thus a conspiracy to use unreliable testimony has been established. So what is this saying in plain English? So Reish Lakish could say even the rabbis could see it according to my opinion. It doesn't even have to be only Rav Yehudah, because they were saying that if you look at the Mishnah, where it deals with Eidim Zomimim, there's no pattern of dishonesty. They haven't been caught out by the judges. We just say that the second set, it might be unlikely, so we don't put the first set to death or any other sets that are coming in to testify against the defendant. But they haven't been established as dishonest, which is how they stayed there against the first set to start with and subsequent sets, because they were indeed in this restaurant in Durban, but in terms of verification, etc., they can't be caught out. So there's no established pattern of dishonesty. But here, even the rabbis would agree with me, because this woman brought 2 sets of witnesses. Each set of witnesses, their case was thrown out by the judges because of contradiction on their testimony. So now conspiracy to use unreliable testimony has been established by these judges. But there was no second set of witnesses that were established by the judges as dishonest. Otherwise, the rabbis could say this case couldn't be reoccurred again and again and again 100 times. So the Gemara is just basically saying you can even say that Reish Lakish would accord with the rabbis. And I'm going to we've got a few minutes left, 4.5 minutes, to just go through the last bit. And then Rav Yochanan, who generally says we take it on a case-by-case basis, would say, listen, even Rav Yehudah would agree with me. And now you think, wow, that's also a stretch. It's only there in the case of the mission on Eidim Zomimim that Rav Yehudah did not say what I say, because we say, was the whole world standing with these witnesses who claim to have been together with every set of witnesses somewhere else at the time the crime has been committed? So even what Rav Yochanan is saying is he would even agree with Rav Yehudah, because in this case of Eidim Zomimim, it can't be that the 100 sets of witnesses were all in this restaurant in Durban when the supposed crime that they viewed in Santon they happened to be with him, the same set, and again and again and again could be with different people in a different province. Something there doesn't make sense, whereas it's highly improbable and highly suspicious. But here, in this case of the woman who kept looking for witnesses, it's quite possible that this woman herself is disreputable. And, for example, she was very pretty, and she had her car smashed at a shopping center. She went to the two male witnesses that weren't really looking and said, listen, please, I don't have much money. You need to testify on my behalf. And they were thrown out because they didn't really view all the details when they were cross-questioned. And the second said, she took down everybody's name, basically, that was in the parking lot. Said, no, we understand your situation. And also thought she was pretty hot and they were pretty single. And she got them to testify. And she's not an honest woman, but she did maybe have a car damage, according to Rav Yochanan. But by the time she bought the third set, she never brought them. She might have spoken to the security guard's number at Balfour Park and said, listen, I'll give you $100 if you can just take down details of any other witnesses that might have seen it. And there might be another set of witnesses that have got no interest in her because they're senior citizens, and the fact that she's a 20-year-old belter, they've got no sexual interest. And in fact, they were standing at the place where they witnessed somebody else damaging the car. And therefore, the judges have said, well, it stood up to testimony. It's okay. So we can see here that it can be complicated. Do you get that? And we can end on this note.
Yeah. Also, the one seems to be one case as opposed to, so it's all the witnesses are happening in the one case, whereby with the Eidim Zomimim, the chances are they're all separate cases.
Yeah, well, the Eidim Zomimim seems to be also its own set of problems, because in some way, according to Rav Yochanan, he's saying, look, it doesn't mean if this woman was despicable that the third set are not telling the truth. It just means that she did everything in her power to try and get other people and coax them into it. But it doesn't mean that the third set necessarily didn't see the car bashing. But in the case, says, I actually agree, Rav Yehudah would agree with me, and I'd agree with Rav Yehudah. Because when there's a set of witnesses saying that every set of witnesses against the defendant that saw him murder in Santon City, and they said, no, these other sets of witnesses were with us in Durban, something's very wrong. But he said it doesn't mean that my case is wrong, just because this woman is disreputable. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Reish Lakish is turning around and saying one thing, that the rabbis would even agree with me, because in that case, you can't say the second set were recorded as witnesses because their testimony was contradicted. Whereas I can say these judges threw out two sets of these women's witnesses, and therefore it's highly suspicious, whereas the judges never went against the Eidim Zomimim second set of witnesses, which is how it reoccurred. So it's just showing you conceptual differences. All right, guys, it wasn't that easy to give over, but I do know it. And I wish you a good Shabbos.
Jobs, guys.
You too. Thanks, Damon. Well done.
You give over the next one, guys. All right, cheers. We've
I'll give
going to a new Mishnah. Thank God.